How many of you saw that eclipse on Monday? Anybody here? Yeah, I'm not really into that eclipse thing. I've seen enough of them in my lifetime. It really didn't faze me at all. So I'm in Mexico, staying with a friend there, and the place where I go to in Mexico, it's a little town on Lake Chapala called Ajijic. And in 1923, Paramahansa Yogananda was there. We have a picture of him out on the boat on the lake. And he said that this location would be the next spiritual Mecca of the world. There's a lot of vortexes, there's pyramids, there's all kinds of stuff there. It's really an ancient place. I toured some cathedrals that were built in 1630 in Guadalajara. So a lot of history, a lot of energy, a lot of really good vibes there. So I'm walking around kind of oblivious because, like I said, I don't really pay a lot of attention to eclipses anymore. I mean, I remember back in the day of teaching my students how to take a piece of cardboard, poke a hole in it, and then you don't look at the sun, but you let the sun shine through the hole, and then you can see the eclipse on there. That was way before eclipse glasses were available. So that's how we did that. So like I said, I'm kind of oblivious to this whole eclipse thing. So somebody, about the fourth person, says to me, "What are you going to do for the eclipse?" Because there's a lot of people out there that are spiritual and doing all kinds of interesting alternative spirituality in this area. And finally I said, "Well, when is it? I know it's Monday, but what time?" And they said, "Well, here in this area, it'll be sometime between 11 and 12. And I'm thinking, oh my. I'm going to be somewhere between Guadalajara and Dallas at 35,000 feet. Which is exactly what I was. And there was just this brief instance of thinking of things like Bermuda Triangle. Anybody ever seen that show Manifest? It was on TV. A bright light comes and the plane disappears for 6 years. I'm thinking, I booked this ticket 6 months ago. Who would have known that I would be at 35,000 feet watching the eclipse? It looked something like that. I did not take that picture. I had no interest in looking out the window. I really don't like looking out the windows that much on planes. And there was a lot of stuff going around. The pilot was very good, and he turned the plane this way so that people on this side could see it. And then he turned the plane this way so people, I am a much better flyer than I used to be, but man, So the flight crew is all going up to the cabin during this time. They're all walking up to the cockpit. And I don't know if you've been on a plane since 9/11, but they make a barricade whenever the flight crew goes into the cabin. And so they've got the carts there, and it's all real secure. And I hear one of them come out, and she says, "Oh my God." She goes, "I was laying on the floor behind the captain and looking up through the thing, and I could see it perfectly." I'm thinking, oh Lord. But I gotta say, I really did get some good visuals. This is similar to what it looked like out the window. The purple of that sky at 35,000 feet, we are above the clouds. And that purple that came through at that dusk time in that setting of the sun, the eclipse of the sun, it was a color I'd never seen before. And I thought to myself, I need to tie that color. I need to tie that color. That's kind of where my mind goes with things. But it was really quite an experience. And I have to say, flying has been an evolution for me. The last time I flew for a while was I flew at 18, when I was 18 years old, and I didn't fly again until I was 48 years old. I didn't like planes. I would never have told you that I was afraid of them. That just wasn't what I was doing. There was something about it, I just didn't like it. Now, one, being a large person, it is uncomfortable. Just granted, it's just uncomfortable. And it's uncomfortable for me, it's uncomfortable for the people next to me. And, being kind of an introvert, I didn't really like being that close to people. So it was not a really good experience. You put me in a car and I will go anywhere. But to put me on a plane, that really took a lot. So I had started here at the church when I was 45. And a friend of mine here wanted me to go on a vacation with her to New England for 2 weeks. And, we could have driven, but it would have taken, 2/3 of the vacation just in driving there and back. So we were going to fly. So I'm having to work myself up to getting on an airplane. I always thought if I was in the cockpit, I'd probably be okay on that airplane. So it wasn't about fear, but it was more about control. It's more about control. Now, I think that was a false illusion of that I would have some kind of control if I was the pilot that I don't have as a passenger, but, you know, what do I say? So anyway, I worked myself up to go on this plane. And I remember we're at the McCarran Airport, back before it was renamed, and we got there early, and we're waiting for the flight and so forth. And I am up, and I am just like kind of moving all around. And my friend says to me, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm counting people," as if that was the most normal thing in the world for anybody to be doing. But that was how I was dealing with the anxiety of getting on the plane, was counting people. I think I wanted to know how full the plane was going to be, but I'm in an airport. How am I supposed to know who's going to be on that plane or not? But it was a coping mechanism for myself. But I say that was in 2008, and I had been participating in our Taizé services. We did one on the 31st, a very musical prayer, meditation kind of service. And there's a song in there that we play almost every Taizé. I think there's hardly any we've missed it. It's a song by Donna Michael, and it's called "God is Holding Me." We play it when we're doing our candle lighting. So I had got my little iPad and my AirPods, and well, back then they were cords. They didn't have the AirPods yet. But anyway, I had it all set up so that I could listen to music on the flight, because I thought I'm going to chill out and listen to meditation music for, it's like a 5-hour flight to Boston. And so the song comes on my iPod, "God is Holding Me." And I had this visual come very clearly to my mind, that if I was walking, let's say if I was God and I was walking, and I was holding something in my hands, as I walked, my hands would be moving a little bit, because, it's only natural for us to move our hands. And so every time I felt turbulence, I envisioned myself in the hands of God, and it was just walking. It had me perfectly safe, and I'm listening to this song. I wound up listening to that song the entire flight. And when I got off the plane, well, actually before I got off the plane, I opened up the window, and for the first time in my life, I watched a plane land, because I had gotten over a lot of that. And the reason I'm telling you this story is because today we're talking about trust. We're talking about letting go and trusting the flow of Spirit as it moves through us. Letting go of all of the need to control. Anybody else have that, or is that just me? So, surrendering to something that is greater than what we are, that has our back, that is always cradling us in its hands. That no matter where we go, we are guided and guarded and protected by that loving presence. And so there's nothing to worry about. And so this idea of being in this airplane to me really was significant, as far as I was actually thinking of the talk as I was flying back from Guadalajara. And I had an 18-hour layover, so it was a long flight. I think that was part of the eclipse thing, too. I'm not really sure, but I think they delayed some things because of that. But I can honestly say that I actually enjoy getting on a plane now, where in the past it was like never going to happen. Now, part of me enjoying getting on a plane is I have embraced the wonder of airline credit cards that have points that you can use to upgrade. Every single time I fly first class, so I use enough points that I get that. And that has made a huge difference for me. Wider seats, I don't have that anxiety. First on, first off, no anxiety. It's really become a pleasant experience. I don't fly very often, but when I do, that's the way I go. And again, part of this is just letting go of trying to control things. Letting go of trying to make it work for me, make it work in a way that I really don't have any control over it. I don't have any. Even if I was a pilot in that cockpit, I can't control the weather. I can't necessarily control all of the mechanical things that are going on in that plane at that one particular moment. The idea of having control over anything in our lives is really an illusion. It is really an illusion. And it's an illusion that we as a society, I think, have bought into greatly. the striving to make it work the way I want it to work and to make it perfect and to control every situation in there. I have learned in my life that when I relax that and go with the flow, life is absolutely much more peaceful. It's much more peaceful for me. I went to see my friend in Mexico, and I actually released control, and I said, you can plan the schedule. I don't care what we're doing. Just don't make it too full because I want to relax too. But so we did. We had a wonderful time. We spent a couple days in Guadalajara. We spent some time. I got self-care done, pedicures, manicures, facials, massage, all of that wonderful stuff done. So it was a very relaxing time for me. But letting go of that idea that I need to control something has been so powerful in my life, and such a it's a game changer for me. It really is a game changer to, I would have thought in the past that I was being lackadaisical, just like, oh my God, you've got to know where you're going, and you need to make your path, and you need a plan, and, as I said, I like to drive in cars and so forth, and my road trips have often, I think I said this before a couple of weeks ago. My motto on a road trip is there's always room for a U-turn. See? Colleen has taken lots of road trips with me, and I probably say it every single time. Every time I miss the turn, there's always room for a U-turn. So, there is that guiding force within us all the time that is always constantly giving us directions if we just listen. Spirit doesn't really care which way we go, but it's there to provide guidance at any time that we need it. Ernest writes it this way, our founder, Ernest Holmes. He says, we may stumble, but there is always that eternal voice, forever whispering in our ear, that thing which causes the eternal quest, that thing which forever sings and sings. I love that. He goes on to say, no matter what our emotional storm or objective situation may be, there is always something hidden in the inner being that has never been violated. There's always something pure and perfect inside of us that is ready to answer the call at any particular moment that we need it, if we just relinquish our control over it. There's that S word that nobody wants to hear, surrender. Surrender. Let ourselves go and let ourselves be guided and directed by the presence all the time. It is such a nicer way to live. He goes on, this quote continues with, to trust in the law of good is to constantly believe that we are surrounded by a power which can and will cast all fear from our minds, free us from all bondage, and set us safe and satisfied in a new order of living. I have to say that releasing that need to control myself or control a flight or control the circumstances around it truly changed my life in so many different ways. Just imagine the freedom now, there are places you can't drive to in the world. So I was able to fly to places that I couldn't before because I was so tight and rigid about needing to control what was going on around me and control my environment in such a way. But when I relinquished that and trusted that God's always got me, that God has always got me in its hands, and I can still, in tight situations, stressful situations, that song will go through my mind again. So how do we begin to develop a trust? How do we begin to actually surrender to that power and presence? Like I said, I did it through a meditative practice. Music was one of the things that drew me to the science of mind. Our music is so powerful, this New Thought music that we have. Justin is such a phenomenal example of a writer who produces wonderful music for us that enlivens us and that lets us move to a different place in consciousness. There are a couple songs that were playing before service. I gave Joe a bunch of songs that I said, I want these played before service because they jazz me up. And that's what exactly happened. You can see me back there. I'm dancing away. I'm hoping nobody hears me, but I am singing too. And because it sets me on fire. Last night was a phenomenal example of music setting us on fire. Spiritual, uplifting, energetic, powerful music even if it's soft and mellow, there's a power to it. It's very tangible, and we can feel it. And when we begin to use that in a way that helps us change a condition in our lives, it's a really great experience. But there's some other things that we can do. One of the things that we can do is, and I talk about this a lot, is to practice mindfulness. So mindfulness is being fully present and fully aware in this now moment and not judging it. That's the tricky part, the not judging it. To experience the situation in what the Buddhists call equanimity, balance, non-reactive state. It is what it is, and we experience it the way that it is. So being present in that moment and observing our thoughts without judgment is a powerful way to move into a deeper experience of letting go and trusting. Another thing that we can do, we talk about this one a lot too, is practice gratitude. When we shift our focus to things that we are grateful for, our lives change. They change in ways that we can't even imagine had anything to do with simply changing my attitude to one of gratitude. It is a powerful practice. Find a way to cultivate gratitude in your life all the time. Set up a practice, morning, evening, whatever you want to do. Find 3 things every day to be grateful for. When I'm in a funk, I take the alphabet and I go through the alphabet and I find something with every letter that I am grateful for. Sometimes it's the apples on my tree, which I have 26 of right now. I'm so excited. If you follow me on Facebook, you can see pictures of them. I have more than 100 apricots. I don't know, I stopped counting at 100. But find something that you're grateful for every letter of the alphabet. You know, take a numbers 1 through 10. Find 1 thing you're grateful for, 2 things you're grateful for, 3 things you're grateful for. Simple tasks. They will shift you out of a bad mood in almost instantly. You don't even have to get all the way through the alphabet, and you're shifted. So practicing gratitude. Here's that surrender word. We, as a society, have a tendency to want to control everything, manage it, keep it all nice and lined up and perfect. And the moment we can let that go, the need for it, doesn't mean that we don't have to be orderly. It doesn't mean that we don't have to be on time to our meetings, but to surrender that internal feeling that's going on with that and to let that go is really powerful. Let things unfold the way that they're wanting to unfold. You might be surprised at the results if you don't try to control the things that are happening. Here's a fun one. Embrace your resistance. So if you start to feel any kind of resistance around these ideas of letting go of control or surrendering or trusting or going with the flow or any of those phrases, if there starts to be anything niggling inside of you, say, I wonder what that is. And give it room to come to surface inside of you. Because if we shove it down, it just gets stuck in us. But let it bubble up. Embrace that resistance. See what that is about for you. You might even surprise yourself there. We can let the resistance take us down, or we can let it illuminate what we want, where we want to go in our lives, and let it bring forth something that's more powerful and possible than what we thought before. And follow your intuition. There is this knowing that's inside of us. How many of you tap into your inner knowing? Yeah. My inner knowing resides somewhere around here. And when my inner knowing gets tweaked, my stomach says, what's going on here? There's places in our bodies where we can feel whether we're in alignment with what we're supposed to be doing at this moment, or whether we feel like that's a safe situation or not. As I said, I had that brief little glimpse of Manifest and the Bermuda Triangle, but it was so brief that it never triggered anything in my stomach. I never got that feeling because it was like, oh, okay, whatever, and just go on, because it wasn't something I was going to experience. I knew that internally because I trusted that. I trusted that Spirit always got my back. I'm cradled in the hands of the divine, and nothing's going to go wrong. And then practicing self-compassion and patience. sometimes we're just really hard on ourselves. And sometimes we are very impatient. Or maybe it's just me. Maybe I should use the word I. Maybe I am just very impatient, and I want things now, and I want them this way, and then I'm hard on myself when I don't get it that way. And so finding a way to let some of that go, again, that has a lot to do with control. So, allowing ourselves to just be with whatever is happening in our lives is actually a really great practice for us. It's going to unfold. I remember years ago, I think I first heard it from Reverend Doug, but somebody else said it was from someone else. Everything is all right in the end. And if it's not all right, it's not the end. Yeah. I mean, really, if it's not all right yet, then maybe I'm being a little too impatient about getting to the conclusion of this thing. Let it go. Let it be what it needs to be. Let it have the time that it needs to unfold. You may be surprised at what happens. But when we jump to a conclusion before the event reaches its fruition, then sometimes we're a little disappointed with what's going on. It's like, wait a second, maybe I should have waited and see. It's okay in the end. So Ernest writes it this way. He says, the great identification then is to come to believe with absolute certainty that there is something in you that is divine. It is eternal, it is transcendent, and it is immanent. There is that thing within each and every one of us that is perfect. That is perfect. And when we tap into that perfection, instead of looking at all of the surface level things, then our experience becomes a different one altogether. When we tap into that divine through our spiritual practices, through those 6 practices that I just listed, through our meditation, through our prayers, through taking a class, as Justin said, when we tap into that internal knowing, Spirit is always ready to step forth. My beloved friend Colleen said it beautifully this way. When you take one step towards God, God takes 1,000 steps towards you. All we have to do is surrender a little bit. You don't even have to give up everything, just a little bit. And Spirit has an opening. It has an opening to work in our lives. And then sit back and watch what happens. Watch your life explode in a good way, in a really good way. So, take that time to actually really begin to look at that. That quote goes on to say, gradually chip away everything that would hide the sight of the integrity of your own soul. Chip away everything that hides the sight of the integrity of your own soul. It is the only thing you have. It is the only thing you brought with you. It is the only thing you will take with you into the beyond. The integrity of our soul, our developed consciousness, our connection with Source. That's all we really have. Everything else is just garnishing for our time here in this planet, in this plane of existence. The only thing we actually can rely on, the only thing that we actually have, is our developed consciousness and the integrity of our own soul. And so that's our goal. That's where we need to put our focus and our work, is developing our consciousness, developing our soul, clearing away, as he says here, chipping away everything that hides it from sight. Well, we often use that analogy of peeling an onion. Peeling off layers after layers. You think you got it all the way off, but there's still another layer to go. And so we just keep chipping away at those things that block us from feeling that connection with Source, that connection with Spirit. And it's just amazing to watch what happens in our souls as we do so. So take an opportunity, find a meditation. That works best for me. Find a meditation, read a book, take a class, have a session with a practitioner. Go get prayer after service. Find something that will help you chip away a little bit of what might be blocking you right now. Because the integrity of our soul is the most precious thing we have. And so let's cherish it, honor it, and make it the most it can possibly be. All right, let's take this into prayer. I invite our spiritual practitioners and our ministers that are joining us to surround us in our sanctuary. These beloved people hold us in prayer throughout the week, knowing the truth for you. If you have a challenge, please go to our website and click on Request Prayer. I say this almost every week, and we don't get that many of them. There's a box in the hallway. There's a piece of paper there. Write down what you want prayer for. If everything is going beautifully in your life, put on there that you want it to continue. But we are available here to pray for you, and we hold you in prayer and in our consciousness all week long. All right, so I just invite you to turn within. I do that by closing my eyes and taking a breath. So right here and right now, I know that there is only this one loving intelligence, this one divine presence, one power, one love, one life. I know that one is known by many names and shows up in many forms. It is called Spirit, the divine, Allah, Buddha, Muhammad, Krishna, Jesus. It has been called Mother, Father, God. And I know this, that it doesn't matter what we call it or how we identify it, only that we make conscious union with it, only that we allow the presence of that one to move forth from within us into expression in our lives. I know that we do this through our practices of meditation and prayer. I know that this is done when we surrender the need to control and allow ourselves to simply move with what is unfolding in our lives right now. I know that this one power and presence is readily available to answer any need. Nothing is too great nor too small for the action and the activity of the divine. I know it is living itself through each and every one of us. And I know that it is showing up perfectly. And so I just give great thanks for this knowing. I'm so grateful to have it in my life. I'm so grateful to see it in the lives of everyone around me. I am so grateful to know that it is acting through every single being in this universe. And so I release this word into the law, into that creative mind that always says yes, knows no limitation, and is always unfolding for the highest and greatest good of all. I let it go, and I let it be. And together we say, and so it is.